My wife slept with my stepfather to steal a mansion, but it was already mine. She thought she tricked me, but the keys were in my pocket the whole time. My wife had an affair with my stepdad because she thought she'd get $1 million mansion. What she didn't know, it was already mine. So I, 36M, used to think I had a decent life. Solid job, paid off my debts young, did all right for myself. No kids, no major baggage. A few years ago, I met her, let's call her Vanessa, 32F. She was magnetic. The kind of woman who walks into a room and knows exactly what everyone's thinking and uses it. She was gorgeous, but not just that. She had charm, style, ambition. The kind of ambition that makes you think, maybe I'm holding her back. We met at a charity gala my boss dragged me to. Vanessa was there, working the room, as she called it later, but she had this way of making you feel like the most important person at the table. Long story short, we started dating, and I fell hard. She wasn't overly affectionate, never one to gush or cuddle or say, I love you first, but she made up for it in other ways. Thoughtful gifts, big gestures, always dressed to kill. At first I thought, this is just how she shows love. But looking back, it was more like she was calculating ROI on every kiss. After 2 years of dating, we got married. No prenup. That's on me. I trusted her. The woman I thought I married was independent, driven, and wanted to build a life with me. Or so I thought. I'd bought a house years before I met her. Nothing crazy, just smart real estate investment early on. Then I hit gold with some property development deals. And well, one of those deals turned into a massive payout. Instead of upgrading our home immediately, I quietly bought a luxury mansion in a nearby gated community under an LLC I controlled. My plan was to surprise her with it on our 3rd anniversary. Big mistake. Because Vanessa? She had plans of her own. About a year into our marriage, things started to shift. She began working later hours, claimed she was networking for her lifestyle brand startup. Lots of business dinners, trips, new contacts. She got glammed up more often. Started going out without telling me where, and she always had a reason. Always. I'm meeting an investor. I'm helping a friend with her brand shoot. Don't wait up. At first, I chalked it up to her being a go-getter. But then I found the first clue. A receipt. It was for a dinner, steakhouse, bottle of red wine, dessert, 2 entrees. Timestamp. 9:45 p.m., the same night she told me she was crashing early from exhaustion. It was on a shared credit card. Rookie move. I didn't confront her yet. Just observed. I started noticing patterns. Her phone was always flipped over. She never let me near her laptop. She started pushing for us to sell the current house, said she wanted a mansion that matched our potential. Her words, not mine. I played dumb. Then she started talking about him. My stepdad's amazing with real estate, she said. He knows all the right people. He could help us find the perfect place. I raised an eyebrow. Your stepdad? She waved it off. Oh, he's practically family. Mom's second husband. Not blood or anything. Just really connected. I didn't like the way she said it. Not the words, but the tone. Flippant. Like she was testing the waters. But again, I kept quiet. I needed proof. And boy, did I get it. So, after finding that dinner receipt and hearing Vanessa name-drop her stepdad, like he was some kind of real estate guru/guardian angel, my gut started telling me something was seriously off. I'm not the jealous type. Never was. But this wasn't about jealousy, this was about deception, and I could feel it crawling under my skin like ants. I started paying attention. One night, she came home tipsy, definitely not her first glass. Purse slung over her shoulder, heels in one hand, hair a mess, but not in the girls' night kind of way. More like after-hours rendezvous. She stumbled past me on the couch, gave me a lazy, hey babe, and went straight upstairs to shower. That night, she left her phone charging on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Now, listen, I know snooping's not great, but when your wife starts lying about her whereabouts and suggesting you buy a mansion with her stepdad's help, I think the ethics committee can take a backseat. So I picked up the phone. I didn't even have to dig. There was a thread pinned to the top of her messages labeled R. My heart dropped. That's her stepdad's name. Just the letter. Real discreet. Huh? I opened the chat, and what I saw still makes me feel sick. Dozens of messages. Flirty, raunchy, vulgar. Things no married woman should be saying to anyone, much less her mother's husband. Photos. Some of them hers. Some of them his. Ugh. And then I saw it. If I play this right, he'll give me the house. A real mansion. Not that bland little cage he keeps me in. That bland little cage. That was my home. Another message, days later. He still doesn't know. Once the transfer's done, I'll make something up to leave him. He's too soft to fight back. I just sat there in silence. The gall. The calculation. The coldness. This wasn't just an affair. It was an operation. She was sleeping with her stepdad, this balding, middle-aged creep, and working him for property. My property. Because here's the thing. The mansion she was talking about? The one she thought her little scheme would score her? Yeah, that was my mansion. I bought it 6 months prior. Quietly. Privately. Through a trust and an LLC. No connection to my name on public record. But it was mine, fully paid for. I hadn't told a soul. She thought her lover, my stepdad, was going to buy her a palace. She didn't realize I already had. She was scheming for a throne that I built. I put the phone down. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. I wasn't going to lose my cool. No shouting, no crying, no begging. I was going to beat her at her own game. So, after reading those messages, her telling my own damn stepdad that she'd play this right and get my house, I didn't rage. I didn't storm into the bathroom and scream. I didn't throw her phone against the wall like a maniac in a soap opera. I smiled. It was the kind of smile you wear when you're done playing nice. I suddenly knew exactly what I had to do. See, Vanessa thought she was playing chess with pawns, but I'd been building an empire in the background. She was working on her little seduction hustle, and I had already bought the entire board. The next few days were surreal. I acted normal. Sweet, even. Brought her coffee in the morning. Asked about her branding meetings. I played dumb like a seasoned actor. Meanwhile, I got to work. First, I called my lawyer and updated the trust, tightened it, just in case Vanessa ever tried to come after the mansion legally. I moved assets around, changed passwords, and prepped for the long game. Then, I scheduled a private showing for the mansion, just me and the realtor, to walk through and finalize a few renovations. The plan? Invite Vanessa to the place she thought she was stealing. I'd dress it up like I was finally listening to her, that I was considering stepping up and getting that big, sexy mansion she kept begging for. She bought the bait without hesitation. Oh my God, yes. About time we looked at real homes, she said. Bring your stepdad too. He knows high-end stuff. Of course she wanted him there. Slimy bastard. She thought she'd seduce her way into a mansion, but she walked straight into the trap I built with her name on it. So I set it all up. Sunday afternoon, champagne on the counter, real estate brochures on the marble island, soft jazz playing on the Bluetooth speakers. Every inch of that place looked like her fantasy come true. And she walked right into it. She showed up with my stepdad, let's call him Ron, wearing a skin-tight dress, designer heels, and this fake surprised expression like, oh wow, babe, this is amazing. Ron was trying so hard to play it cool, acting like he was just there for support. But he kept glancing at Vanessa like a teenage boy trying to hide a boner at church. I gave them the grand tour. Let her swoon. Watched her eye the walk-in closet and moan over the bathtub like she was picturing herself living there already. Then, once we were in the main living room, I clapped my hands and said, well, I guess this is the moment. Vanessa turned to me, eyes wide. Wait, are you saying? I nodded. This is yours. She blinked. You mean you're buying it? No, I said, slowly turning the champagne bottle toward her so she could read the custom label with the property name and my initials etched in gold. I already did. 6 months ago. That silence. It was divine. Ron choked on his spit. Vanessa looked like she just got hit with a frying pan. And then, the meltdown began. What do you mean you already bought it? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't think it was relevant, I said, echoing a phrase she once used on me when she disappeared for a business trip and came home with someone else's cologne on her scarf. This doesn't make sense, she sputtered. So this is yours. I nodded, dead calm. And I know everything, Vanessa. She froze. I know about the messages, the photos, the plan, how you were going to screw me over, move into this house with him. I gestured toward Ron, who had suddenly developed a deep interest in his shoes, and then pretend it just happened. You went through my phone? She snapped, like that was the issue. Yeah, and it was like reading a bad soap opera. Honestly, I expected better writing. She opened her mouth, searching for something, anything, to say. Then she turned to Ron and hissed. You told him? I laughed. He didn't have to. You two are as subtle as a drunk raccoon in a glass factory. The best part? I'd left a gift on the counter. A thick manila envelope. Inside, printed screenshots of all their messages. Sent copies to myself and my lawyer. Vanessa, I said, you're not getting the mansion. You're not getting another dime. You're getting a divorce lawyer, and if you don't make this easy, you'll be getting a court date too. Her face was priceless. She went from smug to stunned to furious in under a minute. Ron? He walked out without saying a word. I watched her storm off in those expensive heels, stomping through the foyer like a reality show villain. And I stood there, glass of champagne in hand, soaking in every second of it. After Vanessa stormed out of the mansion, heels echoing like war drums against marble tile, I stood there and just exhaled. Like, deep from the soul. The kind of breath you take when the weight of months of suspicion, confusion, and emotional whiplash finally lifts off your chest. Ron peeled out of the driveway like he was trying to outrun his shame. Good. Let him sweat. Now here's the kicker. I didn't contact her again that night. No calls. No texts. No threats. I let her sit in that silence and stew. And based on what happened the next day, she did more than stew, she boiled. Next morning, she came back home. Not apologetic. Not remorseful. Just angry that she got caught and embarrassed. Tried to spin the whole thing like I had violated her privacy. Going through my phone? That's emotional abuse, she said, standing in our kitchen like she didn't just try to steal a mansion by sleeping with my stepdad. Cheating on your husband with his stepdad while plotting to swindle him out of his property? That's straight-up criminal intent. She didn't have a comeback. She pivoted to crying instead. I was lonely, she sobbed. You've been so emotionally distant. I didn't know how to get your attention. I kid you not. This woman tried to victimize herself in her own betrayal. That was the moment I realized. She never loved me. Not really. She loved the lifestyle I gave her, the status, the optics. I was a ladder she thought she could climb and then throw away. And when she realized I'd been building the next floor without her, she panicked. So I laid it all out. Calm. Precise. Legal. I told her I'd be filing for divorce. That I had documentation of the affair, proof of financial manipulation attempts, and text messages showing intent to deceive and defraud. Her jaw clenched. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I already have, I said. Check your email. That's when she saw it. My lawyer had sent over the draft petition. All neat and tidy. Irreconcilable differences, attached exhibits, preliminary asset protection motions. She screamed. Like a full soap opera, broken glass kind of scream. Said I was ruining her life. You ruined your life, I corrected. I just refused to keep funding the circus. Over the next week, she tried every tactic. Tears. Seduction. Guilt. Threats. Even pulled the "you'll never find someone like me" line. And that's when I smiled again. God, I hope not. Word got around fast, especially when I quietly let it slip to a few mutual friends that she'd been banging my stepdad for property. Funny how fast Queen Vanessa went from being admired to ghosted from brunch invites. Oh, and Ron. His wife found out too. You think I was cold? She packed up his stuff and dumped it on the lawn with a sign that said, Hope the side piece is worth losing your pension over. Chef's kiss. Vanessa tried to file for alimony. Claimed she'd grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Too bad the mansion wasn't our asset. It was mine, under that LLC and trust she never knew about. My lawyer shredded her claims. She ended up walking away with exactly what she walked in with. A few designer bags, a fake business, and a reputation in flames. The divorce went through faster than I expected. Turns out when your soon-to-be ex-wife is sleeping with your stepdad and caught red-handed trying to manipulate her way into stealing your mansion, the courts don't exactly bend over backwards to make her life easier. Vanessa lawyered up, of course. She tried to fight it, tried to pull out some last-minute tricks, claiming emotional trauma, mental abuse, which, if you've been following along, is rich, and even tried to suggest I was hiding assets. But my ducks were in a damn row. My lawyer? A literal shark in heels. Every time Vanessa's side threw mud, my lawyer threw back concrete. Her emotional testimony? Countered with screenshots of her giggling about faking affection to get real estate. Her claims of not knowing about the LLC? We had receipts going back months showing she toured the mansion multiple times, even referenced it as her future home in texts to friends. Her stepdad, lover? Not even willing to show up in court. Probably too busy Googling how to unfuck your stepson's wife and your entire life. She didn't get the house. She didn't get alimony. She didn't even get to keep her last name. She begged the judge to keep it because of her branding. The judge actually laughed. I'm not making that up. After the dust settled, I had this weird moment of calm. I walked through the mansion, the one she thought she could finesse her way into, and for the first time, it felt like mine. Not just on paper. In reality. No lies, no manipulation, no perfume that wasn't mine lingering on the pillows. Just silence. Peaceful silence. I started redecorating immediately. Burned the bedsheets. Donated the furniture she picked out. Even replaced the freaking espresso machine she loved. Symbolic. Yeah, but necessary. Emotionally? Man, it was a roller coaster. There were days I felt nothing but rage. Nights where I laid in bed just stunned at how blind I'd been. It's one thing to be cheated on. It's another to be played so thoroughly by someone who you thought was building a future with you. But the thing that surprised me most? The relief. When it was all finally over, I wasn't broken. I was free. No more pretending. No more second-guessing myself, my worth, my gut. I didn't have to shrink anymore to keep someone else comfortable in their web of lies. I took a solo trip to the Rockies right after the divorce finalized. No social media, no phone calls, just fresh air, a journal, and enough whiskey to make a grizzly bear flirtatious. I sat on a frozen lake one night, looking up at the stars, and just thought to myself, this is what clarity feels like. I didn't think I'd date again. But people surprise you. One of the contractors working on the house, her name was Ellie, ended up becoming a friend. Then a better friend. Then one night we ended up sitting on the floor of the newly renovated master bathroom drinking cheap wine, laughing about how I let a woman with French tips and contouring try to scam me out of generational wealth. And now? Ellie and I aren't rushing anything. She's got her own business, her own life. No masks. No games. She actually likes me for me. I still get a little cautious, but therapy's helped with that. Turns out love isn't supposed to feel like walking a tightrope blindfolded with a knife at your back. Who knew? You ever look back at a version of yourself and cringe so hard it physically hurts? That was me, watching old home videos from a vacation Vanessa and I took to Turks and Caicos. There I was, goofy smile, arm around her, talking about how lucky I was. Meanwhile, she was barely holding eye contact with me, too busy angling the phone for the perfect selfie while pouting like a B-list influencer. That video hit harder than the court order hitting her lawyer's desk. It was the first time I really saw what I hadn't wanted to see for years. Vanessa never loved me. She loved what I could offer: security, status, proximity to power. And if I'm being brutally honest, I loved the idea of her more than the reality. The fantasy was flawless. But the woman? Not so much. There were always signs. The way she'd roll her eyes when I talked about work wins that didn't involve luxury perks. How she never once remembered my mom's birthday, but could recite every shade of lipstick from a Kardashian collab. The casual mentions of wanting to be an influencer, even though her entire following was bots and 2 girls from her gym. And of course, her favorite show? Selling Sunset. Now, I don't want to roast the whole show. It's entertaining, sure. But when your wife's entire vision of success comes from women catfighting over overpriced homes and stilettos, you start to worry. Vanessa would binge it for hours, glass of wine in hand, talking about how she deserved that lifestyle. And I guess she thought she could shortcut her way to it by sleeping with Ron and stabbing me in the back. Anyway, that's behind me now. So here's the real reason I wanted to post this part. Not just to vent, though yeah, it's therapeutic, but to offer a bit of unsolicited but hard-earned advice to anyone out there who might be where I was a year ago. If you're ignoring your gut, stop. Seriously. That quiet voice in the back of your head? That survival instinct honed by thousands of years of evolution. If you feel like something's off, it probably is. Listen to it. Don't confuse charisma with character. Vanessa could light up a room. She knew how to make everyone like her. But when the lights were off and it was just us, there was nothing there. No depth. No empathy. All style, no soul. Protect your assets. I don't care if you're madly in love or if they would never do that. Protect yourself. Trust should be earned over time, not handed over with a blank check. An LLC saved my future. If they show you who they are, believe them. She lied. A lot. About little things, then big ones. I excused it because I didn't want to ruin a good thing. Turns out, it wasn't a good thing. It was just well-polished rot. Your peace is priceless. After she was gone, the mansion got quiet. And it was beautiful. Peace isn't just about silence. It's about not having to walk on eggshells. It's waking up and not wondering who you'll have to pretend to be that day. And about Ellie? We're still taking it slow. She's everything Vanessa wasn't: low maintenance, real, warm. She brings me coffee while she's on job sites, and she laughs at my dad jokes instead of sighing dramatically. I don't know where it's going, but it doesn't feel like I'm being sold something every time she smiles. I've learned to value the unflashy moments. Mornings where we both read quietly. Grocery runs where no one's Instagramming their cart. Shared playlists. Mutual respect. It's the kind of life I didn't know I deserved until I burned down the fantasy. Ron thought he got away clean. After the mansion reveal, after Vanessa's meltdown and the court's cold dismissal of her alimony dreams, he just disappeared. Ghosted the family, blocked my number, deleted social media. Coward behavior. He didn't even try to defend himself. Maybe he knew he couldn't. But silence doesn't mean peace. Not in this family. Ron's wife, my stepmother, Linda, wasn't stupid. She wasn't flashy like Vanessa or manipulative like Ron. She was composed. Regal, almost. One of those women who walks into a room and makes everyone sit up straighter. I'd always liked her. Always thought she deserved better than him, but I never imagined this would be the wake-up call she needed. Turns out, she knew something was off long before I did. After the divorce went public, small-town gossip spreads like wildfire, Linda reached out to me. We met for coffee. I expected awkward tension, maybe even blame. Instead, she sat down, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "I'm sorry he did this to you." And to me. I didn't know what to say. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just sipped her cappuccino and slid a thick, bound folder across the table. Bank records. Phone logs. Photos. I didn't realize what I was holding at first. Then I flipped through it and saw what she'd been compiling for months, maybe years. Suspicious charges, late-night hotel stays, one very clear shot of Ron's car parked outside Vanessa's gym while she was training a client. Linda had already filed for divorce by then, but she wanted me to know she wasn't walking away quietly. "You take their pride," she said. "I'll take their legacy." She wasn't kidding. Ron and Linda had built a business together. He was the face of it, some regional real estate coaching scheme. She was the brain. She handled the books, the branding, the back end. When she filed for divorce, she didn't just walk away, she gutted the business, pulled the licensing, froze joint assets, and fired every employee who ever played along with his games. Then she launched a new company in her name, took half the clients with her. Overnight, Ron went from local celebrity to washed-up fraud. No income, no office, no wife. Just a man who traded everything for a fling with a woman who couldn't even spell loyalty. But here's where it really twists. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, mine, not theirs, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Handwritten. On crisp white stationery. It was from Vanessa. I stared at the envelope for 10 minutes before opening it. I don't know what I was expecting. Apologies? Regret? Another lie? It was none of those. She wrote, "I never wanted to love you, but sometimes I think I did. In a small, scared, broken way. I thought I could control everything, Ron, the house, even you. But I didn't understand what I was playing with. You weren't weak. You were kind. And I mistook kindness for softness. That was my mistake. And now, it's my shadow to live under." I read it twice. Then I burned it in the fireplace. She wanted closure. Maybe redemption. But I don't know her either. Let her find her peace in a studio apartment with broken mirrors and quiet that stings. Ron moved out of state, last I heard. Tried to restart his business under a new name. But word travels. Clients Googled. Reviews surfaced. And Linda? She made sure every Google ad tied to his name redirected to her website. Poetic. As for me, I'm good. I wake up in a house that's truly mine. I sleep with the windows open. I laugh without wondering if someone's watching with calculation in their eyes. And I love deeper now. Not recklessly, but honestly. Ellie knows the whole story. She doesn't flinch when I tell it. She says I carry it like armor, not a wound. She's not wrong. The thing no one tells you about healing is how quiet it is. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. It doesn't come in one big cathartic moment. It creeps in while you're doing the dishes. When your house is still and there's no rage to wrestle. When you pass her favorite perfume in a store and don't feel anything except nothing. That's when you realize you're healing. After the dust settled, legal, emotional, financial, I expected to feel victorious. Triumphant. Like I'd climbed some impossible mountain, and now I could plant my flag and scream into the wind. But what I actually felt? Exhausted. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes. Soul tired. Tired from carrying the weight of betrayal, of pretending to be okay when I wasn't. Tired of scanning every interaction for signs of lies. That kind of vigilance wears you thin. So I slowed everything down. I took time off work. Read books I'd been putting off. Relearned how to cook for one without resentment. I went days without checking my phone. I picked out new towels, one she never touched. Hung new art. Reclaimed my space, inch by inch. Not because it mattered what hung on the walls, but because it mattered that I chose it. Ellie helped. Quietly. No fixing, no pressure. Just presence. She never once asked me to move on. She just made sure there was space when I was ready. And somewhere in that silence, I sat down and wrote a letter. Not for Vanessa. Not really. For me. Vanessa. You won't see this. And even if you did, I doubt it would change anything. But I need to write it anyway. Because the version of me that loved you, he deserves to be heard. I don't hate you. Not anymore. Hate takes too much energy, and you've had enough of mine. I pitied you for a while. But even that has faded. You broke something in me. And I'm grateful. You made me look at myself. At the parts of me that were too eager to please. Too scared of confrontation. Too desperate to be loved. I let myself be used. That's not on you. That's on me. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it. But because I do. And I hope, somewhere down the line, you meet someone who sees through you, not around you. Someone who forces you to stop performing and start being. If you let them. But this chapter? It's over. And I am finally free. Me. I folded the letter, slid it into an envelope, and tucked it into the back of a drawer. Not to mail it. Not to send it. Just to get it out of me. And that night, I slept better than I had in a year. It came through on a Thursday. One of those nothing special, boring in a good way Thursdays. I had just finished replacing a light fixture in the upstairs hallway, something Vanessa always insisted wasn't my skill set. And I was standing there, smug and covered in drywall dust, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just a text. Hey, it's Ron. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I'd appreciate 5 minutes. Please. I stared at it like it was radioactive. The last time I saw Ron, he was backpedaling through a mansion he thought he owned, trying to zip up emotional damage like a fly that caught on fabric. And now he wanted 5 minutes? I left the text on read for 2 hours. Thought about blocking it. Thought about responding with a middle finger emoji. Thought about forwarding it to Linda just for laughs. But instead, I just replied. Fine. 5 minutes. No bullshit. He called within seconds. I let it ring twice before picking up. His voice cracked right out the gate. Hey, man. I wasn't sure you'd answer. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I know I don't deserve it, he said. I know you probably want to reach through the phone and beat my face in. And honestly, I wouldn't blame you. Still nothing from me. I wanted him to feel the silence. He sighed. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not for the getting caught part. Not even for what I did to you, which was disgusting and inexcusable. I'm sorry because I finally realized I've been this way my whole life. I ruined things that are good. I sabotaged the people who trust me most. It got quiet. I lost everything, he went on. Linda. My career. My kids won't talk to me. I sleep on a futon in a rented room and eat ramen 5 nights a week. I almost laughed at the ramen part, but held it in. I guess what I'm trying to say is, thank you. That caught me off guard. For what? I asked, my voice finally emerging like I had to dig it up from under a mountain. For showing me who I really am. For ending it before I destroyed even more lives. You held up a mirror, man. And yeah, it shattered everything, but I needed it. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know how. But I also didn't hang up. We talked for exactly 4 minutes and 39 seconds. No yelling. No sobbing. Just 2 men, one who burned everything down, and one who walked away from the ashes with singed eyebrows and a brand new foundation. After I hung up, I stood there for a while. Just breathing. Processing. Then I went back downstairs, still dusty, and found Ellie in the kitchen. She looked up, noticed my face. Everything okay? I just nodded. Ron called. She froze, spatula midair. What? I explained. Quick and calm. Then, God help me, I started laughing. Like really laughing. The kind where you lean on the counter and your stomach cramps and your eyes start to water. It was the absurdity, the audacity, the fact that after everything, Ron still thought redemption came with a speech and not a lifetime of repair. Ellie laughed too, confused but happy to see me crack open. You okay? She asked again. I think I'm finally getting there. Because that was the day I realized Ron's words didn't matter. Vanessa's betrayal didn't define me. What mattered was how I came back from it. What I chose to build in the rubble. And for the first time in a long, long time, I knew I was building something worth keeping. So, Just when I thought the saga had finally settled into that quiet, post-storm stillness, life threw me another curveball, except this one didn't come wrapped in betrayal or late-night confessions. It came with lipstick-red lipstick, a power suit, and a press release that made me choke on my morning coffee. Linda, God bless her strategic little soul. See, while Ron was out there sulking in rented rooms and scarfing down dollar store ramen, Linda wasn't just rebuilding. She was rebranding. She took their old business, gutted it, and rose from the ashes with a vengeance that felt biblical. She launched her own real estate mentorship platform for her realty geared specifically toward empowering women to break into high-end property markets. The mission was bold, the branding was flawless, and the tagline? Oh, chef's kiss. We don't sleep our way into real estate. We own it. I nearly spit out my coffee. It went viral within days. Not just local news. This thing hit national real estate blogs, women in business forums, LinkedIn articles. I had friends texting me screenshots like, "Isn't this your stepmom?" And, "Yo, she's savage." Yes, she is. She even hosted a seminar titled, "How to Divorce a Liability and Still Flip the Market." I swear to God. And you know what? I was proud of her. Legitimately proud. She didn't just survive Ron's betrayal, she used it as jet fuel. She took everything he tried to keep her from becoming and turned it into a brand, a movement. She created something out of the ruins that helped other people climb out of their own wreckage. And while I was sitting in that strange space between vindication and peace, I got another surprise. A message request on Facebook. Name, Clara West. It took me a second. I hadn't seen that name in over a decade. Clara was my college girlfriend. The one before all the mess. The one who broke my heart the first time in that painfully honest, youthful way where you both think you'll end up together and then life quietly informs you otherwise. She'd moved away right after graduation. We lost touch. I heard she'd gotten married. Kids, probably. The usual. Her message was simple. Hey, I don't know if this is weird, but I saw Linda's story and it led me down a rabbit hole. I read everything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry you went through all that. You didn't deserve it. And if you ever want to catch up, I'd really love that. I stared at it for a while. Not because I had romantic feelings bubbling up. Not because I thought it was fate swooping in with poetic timing. But because it felt like something in the universe was gently saying, you're not broken. People see you. You mattered, even back then. I wrote back. Nothing grand. Just, hey, Clara. Wow, it's good to hear from you. And yeah, I'd really like that too. We talked for an hour that night. Just two people who'd grown and messed up and survived and still remembered each other kindly. There's nothing romantic there, but it felt like closure I didn't know I needed. Like one of those doors you always assumed was shut for good just cracked open to let a breeze through. It was early spring when it happened, the kind of day where the air smells like it just washed away winter. I was in the garden, of all places, trying to figure out whether I had the patience to learn how to keep succulents alive. Spoiler, I don't. Ellie was inside painting a sample color swatch on the office walls. We were toying with the idea of turning one of the spare rooms into her workspace. Life was simple, predictable, calm. And then the doorbell rang. Not the gate buzzer, the actual front doorbell. That's how I knew something was off. Because the only people who make it past the gate are invited. I wiped my hands, walked to the door, and opened it without thinking. There she was, Vanessa, standing in front of me like a ghost in designer knockoffs. Hair a little thinner, skin tanner than I remembered. No makeup. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just like life had shrunk her. Like reality had clawed away at the glossy exterior and left someone raw and exposed underneath. I didn't say anything. She didn't smile. I'm not here to fight, she said quietly. I just needed to see it. With my own eyes. I followed her gaze past my shoulder, into the home she once thought she'd con her way into. The place she imagined herself owning. Built on betrayal, lies, and lingerie sales tactics. It's beautiful, she whispered. I always knew it would be. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. You're trespassing. She nodded, didn't argue. That was new. I live with my sister now, she said. In one of those extended stay apartments out by the highway. You know the kind, with a tiny kitchenette and water pressure that hates you. I didn't answer. I thought Ron would fix it, she admitted, laughing bitterly. But turns out, he's just as good at ruining lives as he is at pretending to love people. So there it was. The perfect storm of karma and consequence. He left after Linda scorched the earth, she continued. Moved to Arizona. He's selling timeshares now. Sleeps in a recliner in his buddy's den. Good. Vanessa pulled a crumpled envelope from her purse and held it out to me. These are some of your things I found in my storage unit. Old tax documents. A watch you left in my car. I figured you'd want them. I took the envelope, still silent. I'm not asking for anything, she added. I don't want money. I don't want closure. I just needed to face it. See the house. See you. And say I'm sorry. There it was again. That word. But this time, it landed differently. Not because I believed she meant it, but because I didn't need it anymore. I nodded once. Okay. She looked surprised, like she expected me to yell, to gloat, to remind her of all the wreckage she left behind. Instead, I stepped back inside and closed the door. No slamming. No theatrics. Just done. I watched her through the window as she stood on the porch for a few seconds, then slowly walked away. Her heels clicked on the stone path like echoes of a life she thought she deserved but never earned. And that was it. The last time I saw Vanessa. Later that night, I opened the envelope. My old watch, some paperwork, a photo. A Polaroid from a trip we took to Catalina. Me smiling, holding a fish I'd caught, and her in the background, not even looking at me, staring off into the horizon like she was already gone. I slid it into a box I keep tucked in my closet. Not a shrine, not a wound, just history. Filed, finished, and no longer alive. After Vanessa left that day, after she stood on my porch like a ghost who finally realized she died long ago, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. Not in a sad, lonely way. Not anymore. It was something quieter than that. Like the silence in a room after a loud party ends. The air's still buzzing, but the chaos is gone. You stand there surrounded by empty glasses and the ghost of laughter, wondering if the mess was ever worth the music. I didn't rush back into dating. Hell, I didn't even think about it. Everyone around me expected that I'd throw myself into some post-divorce rebound parade. New haircut, flashy dates, matching drinks with unfamiliar faces in rooftop bars. But I didn't. I stayed home. I slept in. I read long, complicated books I used to avoid. I started running again, not for fitness, but for rhythm. I changed the layout of the living room. I repainted a wall just because I felt like it. And I took myself out to dinner. Table for one, and no, I don't need the Wi-Fi password. I needed to sit with myself. Because here's what I realized. When you come out of a relationship where your love was used like currency, you have to rebuild your own emotional economy. You have to remember that your attention, your kindness, your vulnerability, they're not giveaways. They're investments. And I wasn't ready to invest again. Not yet. Ellie understood. God, she was patient. There were moments, brief flickers, where we'd look at each other just a second too long. Her hand brushing mine as we reached for a doorknob. A laugh that lingered longer than necessary. But we never crossed that line. She never tried to rush me. And then one night, it was raining. Actually, one of those late summer thunderstorms where the sky just collapses in on itself. I was sitting on the porch, watching the lightning paint streaks through the clouds. Ellie came out with 2 cups of coffee. No small talk. No flirting. Just handed me a mug and sat beside me in silence. I looked at her. Really looked. Hair damp from the mist. Eyes reflecting the storm like she'd been born from it, too. And something shifted. Not suddenly. Not with fireworks or heartbeats that felt like drum rolls. It was just this knowing. A click. A soft, certain warmth in my chest. I wanted her there. Not as a friend. Not as a placeholder. As her. All of her. In my life. In my space. In the house that once held betrayal and now felt like it could hold something better. Something honest. That was the moment I knew I was ready. Not to date. To try. Again. To risk the part of myself I'd protected so fiercely for so long. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't even touch. But I think she knew. Because when I looked at her, she smiled the smallest, quietest smile. Like she'd been waiting for the storm to end, too. We didn't call it a date. Not officially. Ellie and I had done so many normal things together. Hardware store runs, coffee breaks, takeout on the living room floor, while we debated whether matte black or brushed bronze was the right finish for cabinet handles. We'd shared space so naturally that drawing a line between just friends and something more felt irrelevant. But one evening, early October, leaves just starting to crisp up, we were walking through this little outdoor market near town square. She stopped at a stall selling hand-carved wooden pins, and I swear to God, I watched her inspect each one like she was choosing a wand at Ollivanders. That's when I said it. Dinner. Just you and me. Somewhere without paint samples or receipts. She turned, raised an eyebrow. So, like a date? I smiled. Exactly like a date. She nodded once, simple and sure. Okay. We didn't go anywhere fancy. Just a small Italian place tucked off a side street. Candlelight flickering on brick walls. The kind of restaurant that plays soft jazz and actually means it. She wore a navy dress that made her eyes look like dusk. I wore the one blazer I hadn't burned post-divorce. We talked about everything. And nothing. Childhood memories. Our worst haircuts. Her obsession with true crime podcasts and my irrational fear of basement stairs. There was no performance, no need to impress. Just presence. And it was so different from Vanessa. Not better in some superficial way. Ellie wasn't flashier or funnier or more charming. She was just real. Rooted. No layers to peel back. No veiled intentions behind her smile. She didn't need me to prove anything. She already liked who I was when no one was watching. When dessert came, tiramisu with 2 spoons, she asked, "Are you scared?" I didn't pretend not to understand. Terrified, I said. But not of you. She didn't push. Just nodded, scooped a bite, and offered me the first spoonful like we'd done this 1,000 times before. And in that moment, I swear, I felt my guard come down, like a drawbridge slowly lowering after years of keeping the castle locked up tight. It didn't crash open. It creaked. It resisted. But it moved. That night, walking her to her car, I kissed her. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't cinematic. It was safe. And God, after everything I'd been through, that felt like the rarest kind of magic. Loving Ellie didn't feel like losing myself. It felt like coming home to someone who'd left the light on for me. No power plays. No hidden motives. Just 2 people, standing in the soft space between everything we'd survived and everything we hadn't dared to hope for. 1 year. That's how long it had been since Ellie and I stood under that storm-lit sky with mugs of coffee between us and a quiet that spoke louder than any vow. A year of slow Sunday mornings, shared playlists, paint-stained fingers, and 2 toothbrushes resting side by side in my bathroom drawer. We didn't rush anything. There was no checklist, no pressure, just presence. Intentional, steady, quiet love. The kind that doesn't shout to be noticed, but lingers in the way she'd text me. "Drink water today. I know you forget." Or the way I'd pull over to that one bakery she loves if I passed by during errands, just to surprise her with a cinnamon roll and a napkin folded like a heart. So when the 1-year mark crept up, no big announcement, no calendar alert. I didn't plan a grand gesture. No surprise trips, no glittery gifts. I just made dinner. Her favorite, roasted chicken with lemon thyme, mashed potatoes with too much butter, and a bottle of wine she liked even though she pretended it was too sweet. We ate on the back patio. The air was cool. The garden lights blinked softly under the branches. Afterward, we sat wrapped in a blanket, her head on my shoulder, my fingers tracing gentle patterns along her arm. She reached into her bag and handed me a folded piece of paper. Cream-colored, her name written on the corner in that neat, all-caps handwriting of hers. "What's this?" I asked. She shrugged. "Something I started writing a while ago. Finished it this morning." I unfolded it. It wasn't long, just a few paragraphs. But one sentence made my throat tighten and my vision blur before I even finished the page. "I fell in love with you slowly, and then all at once. When I realized your silence wasn't emptiness, it was depth." I didn't cry. Not exactly. But something inside me cracked open, gently. The kind of breaking that makes space for something better to grow. I hadn't known how badly I needed those words. Not just the love in them, but the recognition. She saw me. Not just the version of me who smiled in public or cracked sarcastic jokes to mask old bruises, but the whole picture. The man who'd been betrayed, who'd rebuilt, who still flinched sometimes when he heard the word forever, but stayed anyway. She didn't just love who I was becoming. She loved who I was, even when I didn't. I folded the letter and tucked it in my wallet. It's still there, right behind my license, close to the weight of my body. She looked at me and asked, "Do you still think you'll never believe in love again?" I kissed her forehead and said, "I think I already do." And for the first time in years, I meant it. Not because I needed someone, but because I'd finally found someone who saw me. Not the mansion, not the legacy, not the pain, but me. And that was enough. It felt strange to be back. The house where it all started. Our old house. The one Vanessa called a bland little cage. The one I poured years into making a home before she tried to turn it into a stepping stone. I hadn't been back since I signed it over to a property manager after the divorce, unable to stomach walking through rooms where love had been faked, so well it nearly fooled me too. But Ellie wanted to see it. Not for drama. Not to poke around the ruins of the past. Just curiosity. Understanding. Sometimes, she said, we have to see where the ghosts live to know how far we've come. So I unlocked the front door, and we stepped inside. Everything was different. New floors, fresh paint, a modern kitchen. A young family lived there now, judging by the rain boots lined up by the door and the colorful magnets on the fridge. I told them we were just looking around with permission, former owner, quick peek, and they smiled, waved, and left us to it. I stood in the living room where I once sat, clutching a phone, reading messages from the woman I thought would grow old with me. Messages filled with lies, with seduction spun towards someone who shared my blood. I looked at the spot where I once imagined our Christmas tree, the corner where she used to pose for photos and post them with captions that made it look like we were perfect. It didn't hurt. Not anymore. Instead, I looked at Ellie, standing in the doorway with her hands in her pockets, smiling gently. The woman who helped me rebuild, not because she fixed me, but because she let me figure out how to fix myself. And I realized something simple, but important. You don't need to burn every bridge behind you. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk across them, calmly, with your head high, just to prove that the fire didn't reach you. We left after a few minutes. No ceremony, no final words. Just a quiet closing of a door that no longer led to pain. Later that evening, we drove up to the bluff above the city. The same spot where I'd once stood alone, looking out at the skyline wondering how the hell I'd let someone like Vanessa take so much from me. This time, I wasn't alone. Ellie leaned against me, her hand in mine. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. I thought about the mansion, the betrayal, the silence after the storm, the small victories, the hard healing, the laughter that returned slowly like sunlight after a long winter. And I thought about that guy from a year ago, the one who found out his wife was sleeping with his stepdad for a mansion that was already his. God, he was so angry, so shattered, so convinced he'd never love again. He had no idea, because now, here I was, peaceful, whole, loved. Not in a loud, movie-ending kind of way, but in the kind that makes you feel safe falling asleep with someone breathing beside you. The kind that doesn't ask for proof or promises. Just presence. And that's the story. The whole ridiculous, painful, weirdly poetic story. My wife had an affair with my stepdad because she thought she'd get $1 million mansion. She didn't know it was already mine. But what she really didn't know is that I'd walk away with something far more valuable. Myself. And someone who sees all of me and stays. Every damn day.